everybody, I'm Victoria, and back by popular demand is my husband Julio, and we're going to be doing our non-bookish wrap-up, which is something that we have just started doing, and this is only the second time doing it. We are talking about all the things that we watched or listened to in the month of April, and I have a long list once again because we have basically been going through the entire Disney Plus catalog. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
We're getting our money's worth out of that subscription service.
It's rare when we don't.
So most of these
on Disney Plus.
Yeah, so most of these are Disney Plus movies, just so you know. So if you're not a Disney fan, this may not be the video for you. Let's go ahead and jump into the movies. So the first movie that we had watched in April was Tangled. And I'll go ahead and talk about this one first.
Sure.
We'll trade off who talks about it first, so that way it's not just me talking the whole time. But Tangled is definitely one of my favorite, more modern Disney movies, and I just think it's so wonderful, and the music is so good. Actually, I was thinking to myself, I'm surprised that Tangled hasn't been made into a musical by now, because I think the music is excellent. Maybe it has been made into a musical and I just don't know, but I think it would make an awesome musical, and I would totally go see that musical. But for me, this is one of my favorite modern Disney movies that's not Pixar, and I'm giving it a 10. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10.
And action.
Okay, Julio, what do you think of Tangled?
So, Tangled is a really good movie. Yeah, I'd say I'd give it. I'm distracted now. I don't even know what I was saying.
Okay, we'll try again. All right, Julio, what do you think of? We can't do this. Julio, what do you think of Tangled?
Oh no. Take 1,000,003.
All right, Julio, what did you think of Tangled?
I liked it. Tangled is one of those good, like, rewatchable modern Disney movies. I'd say that if Tangled is ever playing, or if there's an opportunity to watch a movie with our nieces and nephews, Tangled is just a really good watch. I wouldn't give it a 10 just because I think that 10 okay, I would give it a 9, and that's really high. It's a very good rating. For me, the 10 needs to have that little bit something extra, something that is a little more beyond just a good watch. I think it has to like change you in some way, or have you consider things about life. You know, this is booktube, right? You guys read books and you're like, oh man, I'm thinking about that for days, right? I think that's what a 10, at least in my book, what a 10 requires. But Tangled, nonetheless, still good. And yes, I would actually like to see it in a musical also.
Okay, I'll accept that answer. I don't think it has to be life-changing to be a 10, but that's just me. That's where we differ.
I do
we differ in our rating systems.
Yep.
The next movie we saw was Onward, which was a new release for Pixar.
When I first saw it, like, I think that, and I've been actually paying attention to this, after we watch a movie, and if we decide to rate it right then, we tend to give it slightly higher than we otherwise would after we let it marinate and sit for a few days, and then we come back and think, yeah, I wouldn't rate it as highly as I did when we first watched it. So yeah, having had some time to think about that movie, it's a good Pixar movie. It's not one of the best. Chris Pratt is awesome, and I think his character is great. Very classic Chris Pratt. And I think the story is very predictable. I think that it's not super original in the sense of, oh, there's these two, like, coming of age, I don't want to give it away too much, so no spoilers. A family that's kind of grown distant after the passing of someone, and then they kind of like grow together. It's just a story that you've heard many, many times, told over and over again. But it's still fun. It's still great. It's funny, and I would give that a 7.5.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna give it an 8 because I think if you have a kid who is dealing with grief, I think it's a really well done picture of grief and what it's like to lose a parent also as a kid. So I think that, you know, a kid in that situation would really like this movie would move them. It's not something that like spoke to me directly in my life, but I can see how if a kid has lost a parent at a young age, this movie would be amazing for them. And only Pixar could tackle such serious topics in like a lighthearted and entertaining way. That sounds weird to say, but I think only Pixar can do it that well. And so I appreciate it for that, even though it wasn't one of my favorite personal Pixar movies. So I'm gonna give it an 8. On a totally different note, we watched the old 90s
Was it? Yeah, I think
90s movie,
I think so.
Heavyweights.
Yeah.
Starring the great Ben Stiller, who is he's very much channeling his like inner Zoolander in this character.
Yeah,
he's a great
just
villain.
Zoolander in every
Yeah,
movie,
he's always
a
Zoolander.
different version of Zoolander.
Yeah, he's a great villain. This is a really fun movie. This was one I watched as a child. They used to show it on the Disney Channel all the time. So me and my brother would watch it. My brother really liked this one. It's about a bunch of young men who go to a summer fat camp. And so it's interesting because like I feel like it's even a movie that wouldn't be made anymore. Like that's not really a topic that I think modern times would touch anymore, and especially like kind of making fun of it. And the kids make fun of themselves, you know, like the kids know they're overweight, and they kind of play that joke too, you know. So it's very much of its time. I don't think we would ever make a movie that's kind of like a little bit fat shaming, but like joking about it too. So that was interesting to me, but it's hilarious. It's a hilarious movie, and it's still fun to watch. It's held up well, I think, over time, despite maybe the kind of questionable content of like fat shaming a little bit. But I'm gonna give it an 8 because I think it's still a fun movie to watch.
Yeah, I agree, and it's actually really funny, and it also teaches you to embrace who you are. And I think for movies from that era, you rewatch them and you're like, oh, I remember watching this many years ago when I was a kid over and over. And sometimes you watch a movie that you used to view all the time as a kid, and you revisit it as an adult, and you realize it's not as good as you remember it. But this movie is not that case. You watch it and you're like, oh yeah.
It's still funny.
It's kind of nostalgic in a way. So yes, it's great. It's still good. It has stood up to the test of time. I think especially because today, I don't think a movie like this would be made. But the jokes aren't ridiculous. It's not like...
It's not too self-deprecating.
It doesn't tear people apart.
Yeah.
It just kind of teaches you to embrace and,
it is more about embracing
take life
who you are.
lightly. And it does that well. Ben Stiller is amazing in this movie. It's definitely his kind of humor. And I enjoyed it. I would give it an 8 as well, because I would watch it again.
Yeah, I laughed just thinking about some of the scenes with Ben Stiller, and it's ridiculous.
It is, yeah.
It's great. Yeah, he's great. Next, we watched Beauty and the Beast, the cartoon version. Okay, cartoon version, the OG Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
How did you like it?
Ooh, yikes. That's a good one. It's a really good one, especially with, I don't know if some people are gonna disagree with my with my thinking of other '90s movies that Disney made that are not as good, like Little Mermaid. I know some people love it. I think Ariel is really annoying, and the story is kind of lame. But
she's kind of annoying.
But Beauty and the Beast, same era. Completely different. I think it's done really well. It does have some setbacks. The movie tells you how you should feel about the main characters, and I think that that costed a little bit of points. But regardless, if you could put that aside, it's still classic. The music is great. The scenery is wonderful. And it's a very magical Disney movie. And it's a classic. I would watch that, but with my kids over and over again. I would give that a 9.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 9 too. And actually, I'm surprised because I kind of thought this was going to be one of my favorite rewatch Disney movies. I thought it would have been a 10 for me, but I think there's like a surface level to the characters, and we don't get a little deeper with any of the characters. And watching it again as an adult, that was really apparent to me. That it's very much they're storybook characters, and they feel that way. And maybe it's the predictableness of it now too, that like I know the story so well, and I've seen so many retellings of it, and I don't want to say that the original now feels boring to me, because it's not boring per se, but it just feels like I'm watching a like storybook cutout characters. It has beautiful music, the animation is gorgeous, like even the opening scene we were just like, wow.
Yeah, the remasters of these movies are really well done.
They're beautiful. All the Disney Plus movies are remastered. They all look really good. And so it's a 9 for me. It holds like a nostalgic place in my heart, but it's still a beautiful, wonderful classic, one of the best Disney classics. So I stand by that. And great music, of course.
Yes, and also great note. The digital restoration that Disney Plus has been doing to some of these movies is bar none. It's
they look
fantastic.
beautiful. All right, next we watched The Rocketeer. And The Rocketeer was one we had both seen before, but it had been a few years. And this is another just romping good time of a movie. You know, I'm sure it was a summer release blockbuster. It feels that way. It feels like you should be watching it in the summer in the movie theater. It's a lot of fun. And if you don't know the premise, it's about a young... He's a pilot when we meet him, right?
He's a racing pilot.
A racing pilot. So a young pilot kind of stumbles across this technology. The technology is a rocket pack, and he's not supposed to have this rocket pack. It was lost. There's people looking for it, and so I won't tell you who those people are, because that's also kind of, I think, a big part of what you discover in the movie. But it's a lot of fun. It's an 8 for me.
Yeah, fun movie to watch. Redlands gets mentioned in it. So
we live in Redlands. I don't know if I should say that on BookTube. But I live in
California.
I've mentioned that I lived in Southern California on this channel. Specifically, we live in the city of Redlands, and there's some scenes that are filmed in Redlands and or at least supposed to be filmed in Redlands. I don't know if it was entirely filmed in Redlands on those scenes, but so that was fun for us to see some of those spots. It's like, oh yeah, we can point to exactly where that is.
Yeah, so there's a lot of beautiful imagery and just scenes of orange groves, which citric capital of Southern California, that's, out here in the Inland Empire. So yeah, being able to hear that on screen was just like, oh, they just talking about that town.
Yeah, it's fun.
Redlands is supposed to be there's an orange grove and a farm that the protagonist's mother or her parents live in Redlands, and it's supposed to take place in Los Angeles. There's the Griffith Observatory that you get to see. So there's a lot of landmark places that you get to watch, and so there's that little tidbit, and we're like, oh, that's neat. You don't really get to hear about Redlands in movies, but. Yeah, it's a summer blockbuster flick. I'd give it a 7.5. I don't know if I would go out of my way to watch it again, but if it's playing,
if it was
or someone
on,
hadn't seen it, I'd be like, okay, let's watch it. But nothing groundbreaking.
Yeah, but it's definitely fun. Yeah, I forgot about the Redlands aspect of it. Actually, that was fun. All right, the next I'm gonna let you talk about first. It's The Lion King, the original animated.
Ooh, man, what a great story. It's a coming-of-age movie, and especially just in contrast to the remakes that Disney has been doing, these live-action movies of these classics. and the live action ones are terrible. So The Lion King, like being able to watch it again, and we hadn't seen it since we went to the theaters to go watch the live action one, and we're just like, man, this is just not the same. The amount of expression that you can have in a cartoon is infinite, and I think that they capture these characters really well. I think there's a lot of character development in Simba. I think that it's a great story. There's a lot of just really good lessons about life, about accepting who you are, about being able to embrace and to grow and not to stay complacent. I think the wonderful scenes of the African desert and just how everything is connected, it's presented beautifully. And I think that the music is great. The songs are really fun. It had us laughing. I would watch this over and over. And actually, it's one of the first films that when Disney started doing these vault things that would release movies, I immediately went out and bought a DVD of it when it was released. And out of the Disney vault, I bought a Lion King movie. And I haven't seen it since then, which is maybe now like 16 years. And it's great. It's amazing. I would give it a 10.
Yeah, I think, so the depth that I had been missing in Beauty and the Beast, I found in The Lion King. And so that kind of solidified for me, like, oh, that's what a 10 Disney movie is. It's The Lion King. Yeah, the depth of story, the depth of characters. It's a tearjerker. I still cry every time I watch this movie in a certain scene. You know which one. It's emotional. It's very emotional. It's very moving. Yeah, Lion King is fantastic. And so I think what Julio was talking about with the lack of expression, so he's talking about facial expressions, where in the cartoon, there's so much more emotion that's able to be portrayed because they can show that on the facial expressions, whereas in the digitized what do you call it? The CGI. Yeah, on the CGI version that they made recently, the animals and everything look beautiful, but there's nothing happening here, and so it loses something. And the original cartoon is just fantastic. I think that extra element really puts it over the edge, and it's just a very emotional film. Yeah, it's very good. I would consider it a film.
Yes.
It's a film. It's not a Disney movie. It's a film. It really is. All right, we better move on.
Yeah, we've got a lot of movies to go.
These videos just get longer and longer. The Fellowship of the Ring. Okay, I guess I will start with that one. So, I watched The Fellowship because I read The Fellowship recently as part of the Lord of the Read-Along that's happening. And it was really wonderful. I think after reading the book and then watching the movie, it really solidified that the movie does a fantastic job. There's a couple of extra things and a couple things that are omitted, but overall, I don't think those things really detracted from the story. If anything, I think they were probably good decisions of kind of helping it to move along a little bit more. If you've ever read the book, you know Tom Bombadil is not a character that ever shows up, and he takes a good little chunk of the Fellowship, and I think that's a good decision. And also there's something interesting that happens with Arwen. Arwen appears in the movie, but does not appear in the book at all. She doesn't appear till later. Actually, maybe in the Two Towers, maybe in the Return of the King. I don't know. I'm in the middle of Two Towers right now. But they introduced Arwen a little early too, which was fine. You know, it wasn't like a major plot point in the story. So, Lord of the Rings, I think, is one of those movies that, like, I think about and I wonder, will anyone ever want to tackle that again? Because it was such an undertaking of a film, and I don't know if anyone could do it as well again as Peter Jackson did. So, yeah, this is a 10 movie for me too. I think it's great.
Yep. Man, just the whole Lord of the Rings movie franchise, amazing work, spectacular. And these are films because first of all, any good movie, you have to have a driving story. You have to have a story that's great, that stands the test of time. The whole Lord of the Rings trilogy in the book, that started a new genre. I mean, that's groundbreaking stuff. And in order to pay tribute to these amazing stories, you really have to invest in the work. So the amount of artistry that went into creating these movies is spectacular. And it was such an undertaking. The acting, the casting, beautiful work. I mean, these are people that poured their lives and their careers into creating something that was just really special. So I think that Lord of the Rings should never be redone. And really, how can you make something that's perfect?
If someone did try to redo it, it needs to be in like 100 years, 200 years. Like when Lord of the Rings just feels so old, like those movies just feel so old, then someone can redo it.
And part of the magic is
not
like
before that.
when you watch a movie that was really well done and it's a telling of the time of when it was created. It carries that special like part of it too. So I think that Lord of the Rings will be right there. 50 years from now, people will be watching it and thinking, wow, what great work was done with these movies. So yeah, just the level of artistry, the filmmaking process, the detail, the research, all of it was so well done. And it was done as an homage and a tribute and a respect to Tolkien's writings. So yeah, it definitely shows. Lord of the Rings movies are so popular. You've all seen them. Having the chance to rewatch them just solidifies its place in history for me. Solid 10.
All right, the next movie, very different, was Jack, starring Robin Williams.
Oh
if you remember this movie at all.
Quite a jump from Lord of the Rings, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, okay. So, Jack. Robin Williams is in it. That's about it.
That's what it's got going for it.
Oh man, it's pretty bad.
It's weird.
It's a weird movie. I mean, I don't know. I think they probably were thinking, oh, Robin Williams does a lot of childish sort of ways that he portrays his characters in the movies, so let's make him a child.
Yeah. So if you don't know the premise, the premise is that Robin Williams is aging too quickly. So he's like a 10-year-old in a 40-year-old's body, basically. So, he's acting like a child. He wants to go to school. He wants to play with children his age, but he looks like a 40-year-old man. So that's the premise. It's already a weird premise.
Yeah, and it's not executed very well.
Yeah.
So it's got childish humor in it that's not done very well either. And yeah, I mean, I would not watch it again. And
no.
Robin Williams is great in anything he does, but I think even this was a stretch for him. Yeah, so I'd give that a 6.
Yeah, I think if you're a big Robin Williams fan and you just want to watch everything that he ever did, watch Jack. It's not horrible, but it's weird. It's definitely, it's all just on the borderline of like, this is too weird,
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree with pretty much everything Julio said. I'll give it a 6. I would give it a 5, but Robin Williams, he's great. So I'll give it a 6. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. All right, the next movie we watched was Jungle Book, the animated original version. And that one really surprised me, actually, of how much I liked it, because I didn't remember watching it a lot as a kid. I didn't remember it being one of my favorites. But already in the opening credits, there's like, I was listening to the music and I was like, this score is so good. Obviously, the music is obviously very important to me when I watch movies, because I always talk about it. But it really is fantastic. It's a fantastic score, and I had never noticed that before. I wasn't old enough to realize that. And now watching it, the music in Jungle Book is awesome and so fun. And also, it's a really good cartoon in general. And I actually read Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book many years ago, and I would really be curious to read it now, having watched the Disney version, and to see like how true it is. I'm sure it's probably not very true. Knowing what I know about Rudyard Kipling, the Disney version is probably very different. But I have always really liked The Jungle Book, and I had watched a lot of other adaptations of it as a kid, but for some reason didn't watch the cartoon a lot. But the cartoon is really great. I thought it was a lot of fun. The music was a standout part of it for me, honestly. So I'm a little biased there. I'm gonna give it a 9. I thought it was really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so The Jungle Book, the cartoon version, was it from the 60s? Wow.
Yeah, 60s.
That's one of those movies that I was just previously mentioning that when you watch it 50 years later, you're like, wow, that is a really cool movie. It's got the cool factor of the nostalgia, of the age. It's a very cool picture into that era. The music definitely gives you a sense of that. And I mean, how cool is that? It opens up with a bass flute solo.
Yeah, that's part of what I loved.
Like, that's just neat. And the melodies are really great. So yeah, for nostalgia factor, 10. The story, yeah, it's fun. I mean, no groundbreaking story though, but it's just like, it's a really good movie. It's a classic. I think that it's something that I didn't necessarily realize about that movie, because I don't think I even remember watching it as a kid. So being able to watch it with fresh eyes as an adult, not remembering anything at all from when I saw it as a kid, maybe. I don't know. I don't even know if I did. But I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I would give it a 9 because it is excellent. And if you haven't seen it, watch it. If you have seen it and it's been years, rewatch it. You're going to enjoy it.
So I've had a goal for a really long time to watch the Marvel movies from beginning of release date, and we have finally started that endeavor. And so we watched Iron Man for the first time in a really long time, and we are beginning our long journey into watching all of the Marvel movies that are available on Disney Plus. There's a few that aren't, sadly, so one or two I think we have to skip because they're just not available. But go ahead and tell us about Iron Man.
Yeah, Iron Man is, I mean, it started this modern franchise of the Marvel series. Iron Man was the first one, and gotta say, I love Robert Downey Jr. in these movies. He's excellent. He's the perfect actor for Tony Stark, and yeah, I think it's a really enjoyable watch just because of his performance alone. But they're also really cool movies. Like the amount of fantasy and science fiction that's part of like the engineering of Tony Stark Enterprises. You also see a character development change in Tony Stark. I mean, to the core, he's still Tony Stark, but he shifts after he has to create his first suit to keep him alive, right? So you do see a little bit of change in in how he thinks about people. Very few people get to break into that, and then you'll see that develop over the course of the series. Is that he starts opening up a little bit more to accept other people into his inside realm, to let people close to him. So that was really cool. I enjoy those kinds of things, and it's really great. I would give it a 9. Solid start on the Marvel series.
Yeah. I think in general, action movies are not my go-to genre, but if you give me a good character that I can root for and grows and shows like that he learns things and it's just an interesting character with a lot of layers, then I'm in. And I think Iron Man is definitely one of the more interesting characters in the Marvel world, at least the way that they've portrayed him. And Robert Downey Jr. is an expert in his field. He's a wonderful actor. Yeah, it's a 9 for me too. I was like, is it a 10? I was like, it's not Lion King. I have to compare everything to Lion King. It's not the Lion King. So yeah, it's a 9. It's a good time. I don't, even in the action sequences, like, I didn't get bored. Sometimes I get bored. And I just, like, kind of start doing other things during action sequences. But there was always an interesting story in this one, and I appreciated that, and it held my attention. Yeah, it's a good one. The next one we watched was also because I had read the book recently, and that was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And so we did a rewatch of that one, and it was wonderful. It's great. I think it's so well done, and something I've noticed from reading the books and then watching the movies is that, so I'll take Lord of the Rings as an example. So Lord of the Rings, I would prefer the books because we get so much more information, we get so much more detail, that obviously a movie, even a 3-4 hour movie, can't give us. There's just that much detail, right? With Harry Potter, I kind of like the movies better because I think there's a visual aspect of the world that you can't get as well from the books. And when it transfers to film, I think it's more magical even than the books. So that might be a controversial opinion. But I'm thinking I'm preferring the movies, and these ones are just really well done. And I love too that we follow the kids. The kids stay the same and they didn't change child actors, and we see them grow up with the series. And so watching the first one again just reminded me of like that warm and fuzzy feeling when you start that journey with them, especially like knowing where they end up and knowing that it gets so much darker and grimmer for them. I don't know how to describe it, but to have the excitement of going to Hogwarts again is always fun. You know, it's always fun. And I think those first early movies and books are always going to be fun for that reason. Like, I feel like I'm a kid excited to go to school again. I'm a kid excited to go to Hogwarts with Harry. So, yeah, I think this film is so well done. The music is great. I know I should stop talking about music, but the music is John Williams. It really is, though. The music is John Williams, so you can't go wrong there. It's a 10 movie for me too. I think it's really nearly a perfect adaptation.
Completely different from The Lord of the Rings, and why I think that's a 10. I would give Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone a solid 10 because I can watch this movie over and over and over again a million times and never get tired of it.
Yeah.
It is just a great, fun watch. I think how the directors and the producers imagined this world to take it from the books and to create it into visual was really well done, and I think it is very magical in that sense. The casting is awesome. And also, like, just thinking about the saga of these films, you get to keep the same actors. Like, that's also a rare thing. I don't think that anybody's going to try to remake these because of that. Child actors change careers a lot, and so it's a rare thing that you would see the same actors continue through these stories. So that's a unique thing to these series. I think that's an enjoyable part of being able to see these actors that get to grow up, and you see them in the first movie as little kids, and they're excellent actors. And yeah, it's a magical movie. I think that it's also funny in the sense that everything is trying to kill you at Hogwarts. There's nothing safe at all about the school, and yet there's all these kids there. So it's just awesome, and I think that it's a really cool movie to watch. Yeah, and I love those movies.
Okay, the next one we had a very different experience with, and that was Jungle to Jungle.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
Jungle to Jungle. Tim Allen is in it.
Yep.
It's not very well done. I didn't really enjoy it. It was kind of like
we were cringing. I was like, oh,
it was
It
cringeworthy.
was pretty cringeworthy.
The jokes fall flat. They're not funny.
Not really.
The acting is not very good. Yeah, it's just stay away from Jungle to Jungle. Like, I would not recommend it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you need background noise to help you focus on something else, you know,
choose something else.
Choose something else, because
you don't need this movie.
Yeah,
it's not very good.
Not very good at all. I'd give that a 5.
Yeah, I agree, and that's generous. I feel like a 5 is being pretty generous. Yeah, it's not good.
I mean, people put in work towards the movie, and I want to honor that, so I give it a 5. But
I laughed a little bit. Like, it was kind of funny sometimes, but not really. It was mostly bad.
Yeah.
All right, next, Muppet Treasure Island. Okay, so I made Julio watch this one because this was a favorite of mine.
I'd never seen any Muppet movie.
You've never seen any Muppet movie?
No.
Okay, so this was your first Muppet movie?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a good one to start with. I think Muppet Treasure Island's a lot of fun. Well, who's the actor who plays the villain? Do you remember his name?
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry is the villain, and he's so good. He's so good. I think he steals the show even. It's a classic. I don't know what to say.
I hear you say that word.
It's not a classic.
No.
It's not a
the
classic.
original Muppets movie is a classic.
Treasure Island is a classic. That's what I meant.
Treasure Island is, though.
Treasure Island is a classic. It is a retelling of Treasure Island with Muppets, and it's a lot of fun. I don't know how else to critically look at this movie. It's a good time. I enjoy the music because that's always important to me, obviously.
What rating would you give it?
I'm gonna give it an 8. I'm gonna give it an 8.
Yeah. It's a fun movie.
I don't know what to say about it. It's good.
Yeah, it's classic Jim Henson humor.
Mm-hmm.
I love how the characters kind of make fun of themselves and of the movie, and there's this kind of like self-awareness of, we're in a movie and we're talking to you, the audience, and it's part of the humor.
I like it when it like makes fun of itself, or it's like, or sometimes it makes jokes of like where they feel bad for you because you're watching the movie. They're like, oh, sorry, you're watching this movie, you know.
So it's very lighthearted. It's a fun movie. It's very lighthearted as well. There's nothing serious in it. Tim Curry is great, and you have all the characters you love from Jim Henson Muppets.
Yeah, they all make an appearance.
Great watch. I'd give it an 8.
Yeah, I still sing the songs sometimes, just like while I'm walking around my house. It really, those songs really stuck with me as a kid. I watched this one a lot as a kid. Yeah, they work. The next one, Cool Runnings. I'll let you lead off with that one. I love
this movie. This is one of the few that I actually did grow up watching over and over. So if you have not seen Cool Runnings, because it is one of those movies that you either grew up watching or you didn't. I don't think this is one of those widely seen movies like some of the bigger Disney franchise movies like Mighty Ducks. Like, everybody's seen that. But Cool Runnings, I mean, it's awesome. It's fun. It's got what's his name?
John Candy.
John Candy. Oh man, like he's just such a great actor. He's that lovable underdog, and in most of the movies that he's in, he plays a similar character.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have a ragtag group of athletes, and they're trying to get into the Olympics. But what's cool about this movie is that it's actually a true story, and I think that it's not just loosely based. It's actually a little close to the actual story of what happened with Jamaica having their first bobsled team in the 80s. So it's not like an accurate account of it by any means, but it's not something completely made up. So I think it's cool. I think it's done well. It's funny, and it's a good afternoon watch. And I'm going to rewatch that again at some point in my life. So I'd give that an 8.
Yeah, it's got great rewatch value. It's definitely a feel good movie, in every way. In every way. A cast of characters that's very lovable, and obviously everybody loves to root for the underdog, and that's what this movie is. And it's really, really cool that it's based on a true story. Yeah, I think an 8.5. I'm gonna bust out those decimals. I'm gonna give it an 8.5 because an 8, I may or may not necessarily reach out to rewatch all the time. But like Cool Runnings, I can see like every so often wanting to pull it out. You know. The next one, we continued on our saga of Harry Potter because I finished Chamber of Secrets, and Julio patiently waited for me to finish the book. He was actually like, when are we gonna watch the next Harry Potter? I was like, I have to finish the book. He was like, well, hurry. So we watched the Chamber of Secrets. This one I don't love as much as the first one because I think the story of the second one is not one of my favorite Harry Potter stories, just because I know how good they get. I think the second one is good, but it's not one of the best stories in the series. But it's still interesting. I give this one a 9. I would say. It has some of my favorite characters that we introduce. Dobby, Moaning Myrtle, and the actress who does Moaning Myrtle is really funny. I think she's really good at Moaning Myrtle. whoever that actress is, I actually don't know. But they're some of my favorite like side characters, so I enjoy seeing them in the second movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna bust out those decimals and give this a 9.5.
Oh.
Just because if I think of the entire Harry Potter series, there's not a bad movie in there. And I don't think that they deserve anything less than a 9. I don't know, but we're rewatching these again, so that might change.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't remember the third one barely at all. So after watching that, we'll see. We might have to change ratings around.
But yes, similar, as we mentioned, is that the first one was great. It's not as good of a story as the first one or some of the later ones. But it's still part of the series, and it's great. It's got all of the other stuff with it that's magical, really well done. The detail,
and I love
amazing
the
actors.
flying car sequence. The way the movie opens is really fun with the flying car.
Mm-hmm. So it's a fun movie, and it's still Harry Potter movie-ness. I don't know what.
It's still Harry Potter magic.
Yeah, 9.5.
We have a few more movies. Oh my gosh, this is so long.
Might need to cut it in parts.
I'm sorry to my future editing self. Next, we watched Hercules. Julio, you said you'd never watched this one, I think. You had not watched this one before? Was this your first time?
Yeah, I think I might have started watching it and didn't finish.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't say.
It was definitely not the first time I'd seen it, but it was the first time as an adult, I would say. Well, I may have seen it in college or in high school.
It's kind of boring. I found myself just kind of browsing on my phone while I was watching this movie. Yeah, I couldn't get hooked onto the movie as much. Like, I just think that... Hey, Dustin. Our dogs are waking up. Yeah, so it was okay. Yeah, I mean, Danny DeVito's in it, but honestly, I think he belongs in mafia, mobster movies. And yeah, it was okay. It was a very okay movie. I'd give that a 7.5, maybe. 7? Yeah, 7.
I agree with that. Hercules, I don't love stories about Greek gods. It's never been super interesting to me. They're just not my favorite. But I enjoy them. With Hercules, it's okay. It's not my favorite. It's just okay. I kind of echo what Julio said about it. So, yeah, I'm going to give it a 7.
Yeah, and another reason I think, I mean, just as you mentioned that, it's not an authentic, like, retelling of the Greek stories.
Yeah, it's not trying to be.
It's not trying to be, and, I mean, I think that if they tried to keep it a little bit closer rather than just, like, commercialism.
They kind of just do their own
yeah,
thing.
like superhero, superstar, like celebrity Hercules, and selling, like, these athlete sort of, Air Jordan sort of whatever,
yeah, I mean, it's got some fun, like, pop culture
there's a
references
disconnect.
in it.
There's a disconnect. So, yeah.
It's okay, yeah.
Nothing more
Not
to say
my
about
favorite
that.
Disney movie.
No.
But not bad. Not a bad one. Alright, next up, Iron Man 2. We continued on our Marvel journey, and now they're all blending together. I'm trying to remember what was different about Iron Man 2. What's the story in Iron Man 2?
The suits are different.
The suits are different.
Uh-huh.
What else was different?
He breaks his house.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the action sequence are just bigger and better, basically. Yeah, that's kind of the difference.
Nick Fury shows up at the end of the
That's
first
true.
movie.
Yeah. I don't know why, I just can't remember Iron 2 at all right now. I remember, I think I liked it.
There's someone trying to take over the company that he had trusted previously, and now...
Oh, okay, now it's coming back to me, yeah. Ooh, the villain. What's his name?
I can't remember.
He was good. He was scary. He's a scary villain. Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
It was good.
8.5 for me.
Yeah, I think it's not as good as the first one because I can remember the first one more. I can't remember the second one. Yeah, we'll go with 8.5. I honestly can't remember it that well. It's all these Marvel movies are starting to kind of blend together in my mind. Next up, we have Kiki's Delivery Service, which is a Miyazaki film, and I'm a very big fan of Miyazaki films. I think they're beautiful and wonderful. Kiki's Delivery Service is probably not my favorite one, but it's still very cute, and I would love for my cat to talk to me like her cat does. I have a black cat as well. It's a very cute animation. It's a cute story. Kiki is a witch, and in part of her witch training, she just has to like leave home
Weird.
and just go do something. So she just the premise is a little wishy-washy.
Yeah.
So she just leaves home and she's like bye, and she flies away, and then she kind of finds her own place above this bakery. She lives above this bakery shop, and she makes deliveries for this bakery, and it's just a cute movie. It's charming. It's got the Miyazaki charm, and for me, it's not my favorite Miyazaki, but I'm gonna give it an 8. Yeah, it's an 8.
Yeah, I love Miyazaki movies because they're so unique. They have that charm. They're the sense of magic and wonder and just kind of working and playing around with that sort of artistic side of being creative. So I do think that all the movies that Miyazaki makes are very original. And this one, by all means, has that. But it's because I know some of the other Miyazaki movies. Like, if this was kind of a standalone and this was the only movie that Miyazaki made, it would be good. It might get lost in the sea of a myriad of other stuff.
I think Spirited Away is
that is an amazing
such an interesting
movie.
film.
Yes. Yeah.
That I have to compare it to that one, you know, and it's not as good.
Yeah,
as
but it's a cute movie. It's cute to watch. The presentation is great. The animation is awesome. I'd give it an 8.
Awesome. All right, we're just gonna talk about one.
Man.
We only finished one TV show in its entirety, and that was what everyone was watching in the month of April, Tiger King.
Oh man.
Should we have watched this? Probably not. Did we? Yes. And do we regret it? A little bit. This is a fascinating documentary. It really is. And it's larger than life people. It's people that you can't imagine are even real. I mean, I'm sure if you haven't watched it, you've at least probably heard something about it. And I don't know, it's like a car crash. You can't look away. You're shocked that this is real. You're shocked that there is actually people in the world who are this insane and doing these crazy things. And the real victims in this show are the animals. And I think that's definitely hard to stomach when you think about it. You know, the show is very much about the people, but the animals are, you know, I really hurt for the animals that suffered through all these people buying and selling them and raising them and not having money to feed them. And you know, it's hard to think about. It's hard to watch. This documentary definitely I don't know if there's gonna ever be another documentary that everyone watches on Netflix. You know, that's like unheard of for documentaries. So it was definitely like a groundbreaking show in that way. But would I recommend that you watch it? Not necessarily. If you want to maintain your faith in humanity, maybe don't watch it. Anything to add?
The rating?
Oh, the rating. I don't know. How do you rate this?
I don't know.
How would you rate this?
Because, well, this is what I'm thinking about Tiger King, is that it's an absolute phenomenon.
Yeah.
That, I mean, the TV series, or the documentary series of Quarantine is this show. Just as Animal Crossing is the game that everybody's playing. So, because of that, I think that it's unique. As a documentary, it's not very well done.
I don't know if it's a well put
I mean,
together
like, a number
documentary.
10 documentary is any Ken Burns series,
Yeah.
right? Like, top-notch research work and journalism.
Yeah, I agree.
Tiger King is definitely not that.
No, it's sensation. It's
Yes.
sensationalism, is what it is.
So I would. Oh,
The content
gosh.
is what's interesting.
Okay, I'm just gonna for a second take it as it is, forgetting that everybody is watching it and it's a pop culture icon now. It is a 7. And that's probably higher than I should give it.
Probably higher than it deserves.
But because it's a clear picture into the idiocy of some people that really many of us are not aware that is happening or has happened.
For that, I guess it has some merit.
So it's raised awareness, I think, on this issue that really needs to be tackled.
I didn't know any of that was
to be
happening
addressed.
in the United
Regulation
States.
needs to exist. But it didn't. That wasn't the aim of the movie of the documentary. So
it wasn't.
It's just like a byproduct of it. So
it was more about look how terrible these people are and look how badly they're acting. I think 7 is fair.
yeah, it's more than fair.
More generous even. All right, we are going to stop there because we have way too much footage for this video. For this video, we have nearly an hour of footage for this video, so I have some editing to do. But we have very little else going on, so we were watching a lot of movies.
Yeah, way too many to have in one
These
video.
videos might continue to be way too long. I might have to do like a split 2 parts
just like
for these.
split them up.
Actually,
release a couple a week.
Maybe we need to do like weekly videos for these.
Yeah.
All right. I'm Victoria. Thank you for coming to my channel. This is Dusty. This is Julio. Thank you for watching. Let me know down below in the comments what your thoughts are on some of these movies. And I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world. And until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.